Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been under fire just day after day after day for the past couple of weeks, and it seems to only be helping her. Those who have launched attacks against her generally end up coming off a little bit either detached or ridiculous. But we have a new one who's gonna line up to be that person today. That is Joe Lieberman, who appeared, you remember Joe Lieberman? The guy that like shook up and totally changed the Democratic Party forever? The guy that like fundamentally represented our values in a way no one else had before? No, it was the guy that was eventually primaried and beaten in the primary, and then had to become an independent to still win in Connecticut. No, it's that guy. So he was on Fox Business talking about AOC, and here's what he had to say.
You got to be careful about, really, I think a 70% tax on high-income people is really done for political reasons.
But is this Congresswoman the future of the party, in your view?
No, I with all respect, I certainly hope she's not the future, and I don't believe she is. And I tell you, she's gotten a lot of attention because she's different, she's controversial. But if you look at the majority of new Democrats in the House, they tend to be, I'd say, center-left and not left-left. And that's because they had to be center-left to win some of those competitive swing districts that they took from Republicans. So I mean, that's the hope. Incidentally, if a Democratic candidate has any hope of winning for president in 2020, they're going to have to be seen as center-left. I'm being simplistic, centrist, moderate, whatever, not far out. Or
but I was even thinking of you when Al Gore.
So as always, you want advice on how to run a presidency from someone who did just awful.
Tell me more. And I'm not insulting you, I'm just describing you, loser.
That's not an insult.
I am just saying
an apt description.
What you did. If someone played basketball, they're a basketball player. If someone lost, they are a loser.
Yes.
And he is a loser, not like this, but just like you lost.
Yes, but I do think it's fair to put a big L on his head. It's Lieberman. So I would put a big L on his head.
Definitely
for
doesn't
his
stand
name,
for liberal.
Not for the fact that he, not only lost in the presidential election, but then also was beaten by Ned Lamont in a primary. He was out of date and out of touch at the time that he was he was the biggest in the Democratic Party that he was. So what you just saw was the future predicted by best case scenario the past. I would argue he never actually really represented the Democratic Party, even when he wasn't in the past. But now he very much is. That's why that prediction was made, not on CNN, not on MSNBC, not on TYT, nothing like that. On Fox, not even Fox, Fox Business.
Yeah, and they'll have him. They'll have him around to talk. And when he talks, but it's perfect. I mean, I have no problem with Joe Lieberman going out there and saying that, because it does help for the reasons you kind of outlined in the intro to the video, which is it just makes her stronger.
Yeah.
It just makes this stronger. It has people that, like Joe Lieberman, who most folks who observe politics see in a clip and go, oh yeah, that's right, Joe Lieberman, guy who is not affiliated with In Touch political behavior, and that helps.
Yeah, and he was on to argue for not raising taxes. That's why he was there. He describes not raising taxes as a center-left thing. I would say he has no idea what those terms actually mean, or what you need to do or should do to qualify for these different terms. He certainly doesn't understand Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. He's one of those who believes, she's good on Twitter. They really do think that this is just an appeal thing. They don't understand the policies that underlie it. There are lots of people who are witty or sassy on Twitter. They have not blown up because that's not what it's about. It's about the fact that you see in this person the policies that you want to see instituted in government. You see your values reflected every day. And on top of that, an amazing communicator.
Yeah, and that's what it is like a lot of people on the Democratic side, on the left, have wanted someone who is good at communicating. And you saw that play out when we were all pulling our hair out watching Schumer and Pelosi give their response to Trump's immigration speech. Yeah. And here is someone who can communicate that way effectively. And she's funny when she fires back at people on Twitter, which is inevitable. As soon as you see someone like Joe Lieberman, you wait for her response.
Well, it turns out that she did actually, because in response to that article coming out, she tweeted, "New party, who dis?"
It's so right.
The only downside to that tweet is there is no way Joe Lieberman understands what that means. But it's awesome. By the way, when I read that headline that says Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez isn't future of the Democratic Party, Joe Lieberman, I thought the article was the future that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez isn't the future of the Democratic Party. Joe Lieberman is, and I just thought, what?
Yeah.
But this was almost as bad. So look, let's transition to the other side of this.
Well, I just want to say, isn't the future of the Democratic Party says the past of the Democratic Party?
Yeah, and again, best case scenario, the past of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he was a Democrat. I would argue it was a bizarre, like elevating him the way that he was bizarre at the time. It's not just in hindsight, it was a weird thing to do then.
But the headline coming from it, like the thing you would remember about Joe Lieberman was first Jewish candidate for vice president.
Yeah, which is fine. And also, we worried for a good year that he would be Joe McCain's,
right.
You know? Like that's who he is, a guy that hypothetically could run on the Republican ticket. Right. That's who we need to learn. That's who we need to listen to right now.
It's tough because like that would reflect bipartisanship to a general observer, and we weren't as tribal as we are now in terms of our politics. But still, like, what if you took anything more than a cursory look at the platforms of those two individuals, you'd realize that there are those two moderates reaching across the aisle are extreme. Either Joe Lieberman in trying to be a liberal who is so conservative in many ways, and then McCain who's just so hawkish.
Yeah, and I would argue the things that unite them in terms of foreign policy are not moderate.
Right.
They might be bipartisan, but they're bipartisanly extreme, I think. As well as the fact that he just seems increasingly right-wing the more he talks about, economic policy and things like that. So maybe it wasn't as bipartisan. Maybe he was just holding on to a term applying to him and his political ideology that wasn't actually accurate. But there is more to this. This morning, Politico came out with a totally coincidental, these people just approached them. They didn't try to get this stuff, but apparently a lot of the Democratic leadership in Congress frustrated with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They're exasperated with her, thus leading to exasperated Democrats trending on Twitter, which is great and will never happen again. She responded, as she always does on Twitter, saying, to quote Alan Moore, "None of you understand. I'm not locked up in here with you. You're locked up in here with me." So she's inside the party now. She's inside the House. They're getting frustrated and they think, how are we gonna constrain her? How are we gonna change her? I don't think that's how it's actually going to work. I could be wrong. She doesn't seem to think that's how it's going to work. And we have some excerpts from the Politico piece saying AOC is already making enemies in the House Democratic Caucus, and some of its members are mounting an operation to bring the anti-establishment Democratic Socialists with 2.2 million, by the way, now it's 2.3 million, Twitter followers into the fold. Some lawmakers with ties to Ocasio-Cortez are hoping to coax her into using her star power to unite Democrats and turn her fire on Republicans. Others simultaneously warn Ocasio-Cortez is destined for a lonely, ineffectual career in Congress if she continues to treat her own party as the enemy. And there is so much that is wrong in that. Not necessarily from Politico's point of view, although they did this article to attack her, that is my view. But from those who feel like, why doesn't she just do something productive, attack the Republicans? What you don't get is, she is making the case against the Republicans, and more importantly, not just in a shallow way, but against their fundamental governing philosophy in a better way than you could ever hope to on your best day. And at the same time, she is trying desperately to pull you to where you need to be, where you will stop sabotaging yourselves with rules. You'll stop campaigning in a way that makes it virtually impossible, apparently, in the modern day for you to beat Republicans in the Electoral College. She is doing both of those at the same time better than you are in either case.
It's tough because that's what it is. It's this jealousy. They realize she has power. That's why they're attacking her this way. So they're trying to say she's going to have an ineffectual career. You might as well just give up. That is trying to discourage her, and they're not trying to and it's not that they're just describing what's happening. They're actively trying to discourage her from doing the things that she's doing. It's not ineffectual. It's not weird. And she's not alone. I mean, when people talk about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, they also add her group of freshmen that are in here, the young future of the party. And that's what they talk about because and they are reflective of what most people actually want. And you can see that she has antagonized a lot of people, and the people that she's antagonized are those that are like the old establishment who are desperately clinging to the fundraising that keeps them in place. And then she's antagonizing people like Sean Hannity, who good.
Yeah, and so sometimes we talk about things that are uniquely about AOC. Sometimes she is the leader of this group. So they go on to say incumbent Democrats are most annoyed by Ocasio-Cortez's threat to back primary opponents against members of the ranks she deems too moderate. Okay, you're gonna have to sort of understand where she's coming from though, since she came through by primary. So yeah, it seems to have worked in this case. Also, to go back to the last one, She continues to treat her own party as the enemy. It is interesting how that always works in only one direction. It's always, if you're on the left and you want to change things, you're attacking the party. That's weird because that quote that we just pulled is from an entire article of party insiders attacking the most popular member of their party right now, which sounds to me like treating a member of your party as the enemy and organizing a campaign where you deploy political articles and all of a sudden Joe Lieberman's on Fox News. And all this stuff is going on. Seems like a war against your own party. But by the way, why are we not hearing from specific members of the party in this piece? So far, most of them have kept their criticism of Ocasio-Cortez private, fearful she'll sick her massive following on them by firing off a tweet. If she is so much more able to get people, regular people, behind her message, maybe you're wrong. Maybe it's not her. Maybe you should learn. Maybe this would be a great moment to move the party in a direction it always should have been in the first place. But I don't expect that message to actually be learned. Thank you very much for watching this clip from The Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.